All right, so here we have some data that shows the Great Depression and what happened to real GDP as well as potential GDP and the price level during those 2 years. And we want to figure out what's the difference, what's new, happened in this recession that hasn't happened in the recessions after this point. So if you look at this little table I've made, as shown between 1929 and 1930, we actually saw real GDP fall and the price level fell too, whereas potential GDP increased. Not all recessions after this, we've actually seen real GDP fall, but inflation usually increases. This means something else is happening here, namely a demand shock where aggregate demand is shifting left rather than the supply. And this can be illustrated over here in this chart detailing aggregate demand, aggregate supply, as well as the shifts in long-run aggregate supply. So initially we have a point here at P1, Q1, which represents the actual real GDP in 1929 and the actual price level in 1929. And this is where aggregate supply, short-run aggregate supply and aggregate demand cross over. At the same time, long-run aggregate supply is much lower at $1,006 billion. After the recession, what happens is you see aggregate demand actually shift to the left, causing real GDP to fall to 967 billion, whereas the price level also falls to 10.2. Now, while this is all going on, the long-run aggregate supply curve actually shifts to the right to LRAS 1. And so this gap between real GDP as well as potential GDP becomes even more pronounced. And so during all this, deflation occurred as prices fell from P1 to P2. So this is different to what has happened in recessions after this point.